There's been a media uproar about 3D printed guns, but here's what you need to know in order to be an intelligent consumer of news and information. This is Mike Adams here. Thanks and welcome to the podcast. And just to establish a little bit of credibility here, not only am I highly proficient in firearms and basic gunsmithing, but I'm also a 3D printer owner. I actually run a 3D printing farm. And I've used CAD CAM software to design 3D printing parts for a food grow system called the Food Rising Mini Farm Grow Box. You can see that at foodrising.org. And so I run 3D printers and I run the software, and I'm familiar with firearms. So with that said, most of what you're being told about 3D guns, 3D printed guns by the left-wing media is just an absolute lie, demonstrating either their illiteracy or their dishonesty. Because when they talk about 3D printed guns, almost everything they say is factually false. So let's go down the list here. Number one, 3D printed guns are not undetectable. But this is the biggest lie. They say, well, you can print a plastic AR-15 and it's totally undetectable, and you can carry it through an X-ray machine or a metal detector machine. You can get it onto an airplane, and you can just have AR-15s all over the country, just undetectable. It's a complete lie for so many reasons. Where to begin? Number one, even 3D printed guns. Well, first of all, 3D printers only work with polymer, like plastics. And these plastics cannot contain the pressure chambers that are found in the receivers or the barrels of firearms, such as AR-15s or pistols. If you were to print a plastic AR-15, all the parts, the barrel, the bolt carrier group, the bolt, firing pin, the lower receiver, everything. If you were to print all those parts and put them together, you could maybe fire exactly one round and the gun would blow up in your face. Why? Well, because plastic doesn't have the strength of steel. I mean, there's a reason why receivers are aluminum or steel or various alloys that have incredible strength. You can't make a gun out of plastic that will survive the chamber pressures of a 5.56 round typically used in an AR-15. So this idea that you can just print these invisible, undetectable guns is total nonsense. They would blow up in your face. Secondly, even the designs for 3D printed guns that are put out online by Defense Distributed, for example, Cody Wilson, almost all the designs use the addition of metal parts. So you have to have a metal barrel. You can't have a plastic barrel, or you will melt it the first time you fire it, right? You can't have for all the reasons I just mentioned, you got to have metal parts in the gun. The firing pin has to be metal. The main chamber in which the cartridge explodes has to be metal. The bolt carrier group, the bolt extractor, the cartridge extractor, which is part of the bolt, has to be metal, and so on and so forth. These parts have to be metal. Now, there's some guns that are using carbon fiber handguards and things like that, but they can't use carbon fiber for the main parts that handle the chamber pressures. Those are all metal. So even the downloadable 3D printed gun plans have to use metal parts for the most part. There are a few experimental pistols that are all plastic that might be able to fire a few rounds of like 22 LR, little 22s, and survive it, but they won't last long because, again, the explosive power of these cartridges, burns plastic, melts plastic. It gets very hot in these guns. In fact, if you shoot an AR-15 over and over again, just on full auto or just pulling the trigger, you can melt a steel barrel of an AR-15. You can literally melt it down just by shooting it, and eventually the gun will fail. If you don't believe that, I guess, you didn't learn anything about World War II. Why did the German machine guns have swappable barrels? Because they would overheat. And if you want to keep firing that machine gun, you had to either let the barrel cool or change it out to another barrel. And that's why they have that. Why are machine guns built in the UK in World War I and II? Why are they water cooled? Because you got to keep them cool or the steel melts. And again, left-wing people, anti-gun people, they are the biggest idiots when it comes to facts. about guns. They don't know anything about material science. Practically, they reject mathematics and physics and science and chemistry. They hate all that stuff. So they don't know how guns work, and they also think a man can magically transform into a woman. So there you go. I mean, if you think that a man can become a woman by waving a magic wand over his crotch, then you might also think that you can print an undetectable plastic AR-15. I don't know. But the rest of the world, thinks those people are morons, and they are. All right, next point of fact. It has been illegal to manufacture a, quote, undetectable firearm in the United States since 1988. There is a federal law on the books, passed, signed into law in 1988. I think it's called the Undetectable Firearms Act, that says if you were to somehow make a firearm that was undetectable by common detection means, such as metal detectors, then that would be illegal to manufacture. So it's already illegal. And an undetectable firearm made out of plastic, once again, would blow up in your face anyway, so there's really no point to doing it. You got to have metal parts. So it's already illegal. Now, the third point is that it has always been legal to manufacture your own personal firearm using metal parts. So it's legal for you to make your own shotgun, which is actually a very simple matter, by the way. It's kind of easy to make a shotgun. Guns are not that complicated if you don't need the auto-loading capability. If you just want a barrel-loaded shotgun, it's just basically it's a barrel, a firing pin, and something that closes the chamber. And you could put all that together on a 2x4. Actually, you could just assemble the metal parts and strap them down to a 2x4 using zip ties. You could have an actual 2x4 shotgun if you wanted, although it seems kind of crazy, but you could. People can and do make firearms all the time, and it's not illegal to do so. The thing is, you can't manufacture firearms and then sell them to people as a business unless you are a licensed firearm manufacturer, which is, of course, regulated by the ATF. Or what is it called? The BATFE now, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. BATFA. BATFA. So you can make your own guns if you want. It's really not that difficult to do a shotgun. It's very difficult to do a handgun. But these days you can buy parts that are 80% of a gun, like an 80% AR-15 lower receiver, for example, or an 80% polymer Glock. And then you can use a drill press, and you can use tools and a CNC machine, and you can use filing and files and other things. And you can manufacture a 100% AR-15 out of an 80% block, and that's legal too. That's legal. So, I mean, you can buy those AR-15 80% lowers all over the place without any background checks. But it turns out that actually turning them into a working AR-15 is quite complex. And it's not something that you can do instantly. It takes actually years of experience to know how to build up an AR-15 receiver, how to put in all the pins and springs and parts and everything, and do all the machining that's required. It's quite a skill. And that skill is usually not something that crazy psycho criminals have access to. So if you have the patience to manufacture a gun, you're probably not a criminal, because criminals usually don't have any kind of patience or maturity or, the time to develop skills. To them, everything is a shortcut. That's why they're criminals. They want shortcuts. They rob a bank instead of working for the money, you see. The criminals are shortcut-minded people. So these are just some of the facts that you need to know about 3D printed guns. And don't let the media lie to you, because they're lying all the time about this topic and many others. You can read more on my website, guns.news, or secondamendment.news. Also check out real.video, which is a firearms-friendly video platform. And you are welcome to upload your videos there and share videos there and watch them there. So thanks for your support.
Learn more at healthrangerreport.com.
Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.